Hi, I'm Bob Santelli. Welcome to this week's edition of Album Club. For those of you who haven't been following this, Album Club's a lot like a book club, except we've been listening to and discussing some of the most exciting, best albums of the last 40 or 50 years. Last week, we talked about a great reggae album, Bob Marley and the Wailers' Catch a Fire, back all the way back in 1973. This week and next week, we will talk about an album that's a little bit more contemporary, and it really has to do with a great new exhibit that's at the Grammy Museum in downtown Los Angeles, of course. It's about the late great Amy Winehouse. And when we think of Amy Winehouse and we think of the music she made, that record from 2006, Back to Black, ranks really with some of the greatest records of the last 20 years. Of course, Amy Winehouse's recorded output isn't that much, just basically 2 studio albums. But boy, that second record, Back to Black, what an amazing piece of work. And when I hear that record, I'm torn because I realize how beautiful it is and how convincing it is, and yet how tragic it is as well. Those of you remember, of course, in 2011, the tragic death of Amy Winehouse at age 27. There it is again, that 27 number. Kurt Cobain, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. There's got to be something with that 27-year-old mark that takes so many of our greatest recording and performing artists. But before she left us, she gave us an incredible body of work. When I think of Amy Winehouse and I think of the contributions she made and also her sheer talent, you had to listen to her as basically not just a performer or a singer, but also as a songwriter, because she was both and brilliant at both. She reminds me of someone from another era. She would have fit very nicely in that Motown era, or perhaps even a couple of years earlier, that 1950s, when people like Billie Holiday and Sarah Vaughan and Dinah Washington were making great records as well. Soul records that really spoke from the heart, and also were a little bit on the edge. Amy Winehouse and her songs, she was not afraid to tackle the most controversial of topics. And when you listen to this record, you basically are getting an autobiography of a troubled soul, a brilliant soul, and someone who again, we miss very much. During the research for this album club, I had a chance to speak to Catriona Gourlay, one of Amy Winehouse's best friends and roommate. And she had a chance to tell me about what it was like, what Amy was like, what it was like living with her and hanging with her back in the day before the world knew about Amy Winehouse. Check this out.
In terms of what kind of Amy's life looked like then, when we were living together in Camden and she was writing songs that would become songs that were on Back to Black, we had a pretty normal life that girls have at that age. We had a regular scene. We went to Trash on a Monday. We went to 10 Rooms, which was an open mic night. Amy used to sing at it, and I think I'm right that that's where we met Zalon, who became her backing singer. Went to Death Disco, Club Enemy, Frog on a Saturday, and yeah, just lots of indie nights. Went to see lots of bands, tons of them, lots of R&B nights as well. And yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that there weren't any scrapes or any drama, because there was some, but it was pre that kind of tabloid era for Amy. She was known in the sense that she was respected for her songwriting, but she didn't have that level of kind of notoriety, and for the most part we were left alone. So those first few years were a really wonderful time. We were definitely, we thought we were invincible. We did our hair the same, we did our makeup the same, we wore the same stuff, knocked around in Camden, and yeah, had a remarkable capacity to go out with a fiver each in our pockets and still be able to go to every night going. We knew everyone, all the promoters, whoever's gig it was. We'd be able to get tokens for drinks or offer to clear up for people and then get them in return. Um, and in terms of the kind of stuff we listened to at home, it would be a lot of the girl groups that, you know, are associated with Amy liking them. I think our answer phone message was Walking in the Sand or I Can Never Go Home Anymore, both Shangri-La songs, neither of which are particularly cheerful, but we did spend an inordinate amount of time crying on the kitchen floor about our respective non-boyfriends that we were kind of seeing and madly in love with, but were really rubbish. So yeah, we did listen to a lot of sad girl group songs. But yeah, it was like that 50s kind of 50s mentality, girl group mentality was something that we really bonded over as well. And I think a lot of that filtered into her songwriting, not just lyrically, but the style that ended up coming out on Back to Black as well. And I know that from speaking to her about the style of the album, it was a sound that she was really proud of and something that she wanted to produce an album that she would have bought herself as well. And was reflective of the kind of music that she listened to and that she loved. So yeah, it was a really wonderful time then, and something I look back on with really fond memories as well.
That was Cat Gourlay from London, actually. And we thank her for her comments. And you can hear more about her and, of course, learn more about Amy Winehouse at the Grammy Museum's new Amy Winehouse exhibit that once we open, hopefully it will be soon, you'll be able to check out. It's there for an extended time and for good reason. So when we talk about Amy Winehouse again, you know, we have to consider what was really going on in London and in the UK as well as here in America at the time, and the kind of music that she was making, soul drenched, horn section, jazz slash soul slash a little bit of R&B. It really wasn't the sound that one would expect coming out of the UK from a female artist. There have been so few female soul artists coming out of the UK in the last 40 or 50 years. There's been some great singers, Adele being one of them, of course, but for the most part, they really veered toward either rock or pop. But to get someone that was as deeply embedded in soul music as Amy Winehouse was really something special and something different. And I think that's the reason why that she attracted the attention of Darkest Beast, who now runs Island Records, but really was working at the time as an A&R man and fast on Amy's track to try and sign her to a record contract. Back in August of last year, Darkest joined me at the Grammy Museum along with Chris Blackwell for a big celebration of Island Records. And I had a chance to ask him about Amy Winehouse and how he actually got to sign her. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I'd like to tell the story that I was walking down Denmark Street and there was a jazz club and it was 9 o'clock at night and I walked down these stairs and it was smoky and there was this jazz voice. And as the smoke cleared, it was Amy, but that didn't happen like that at all. It didn't happen like that at all. A manager came to see me, and he was plying his producer's show reel, and he put the cassette on and done that, and it was playing and it was going through some stuff, and I was like, yeah, whatever, forward it on, yeah, whatever. And then suddenly this voice came out, and it was a song called Procrastination. And I was like, holy shit, rewind it. I was like, who is that? And he was like, I can't tell you, I'm sworn to secrecy, the management are developing this artist. And this was before internet and all of that kind of stuff. So I had to kind of just go and find myself in studios around London. Because I knew she was in rooms writing. So I just had to go and find this girl. And the manager, Nick Szymanski at the time, wouldn't return any of my phone calls, none of them. And so I found out where he worked, and I made an appointment with another manager in the building, and called Pete Evans, and I went to see Pete, and he said, "Hi." I said, "I'm not here to see you." I said, "Where does Nick Szymanski work?" He said, "Oh, it's round the corner." You're so rude. Well, you're round the corner. So I literally found his office, knocked on the door, opened the door, and there was this young girl sat in the centre of the room, and there was a load of photocopies of her tattoos on the floor surrounding her, and I walked in, and Nick was at the table all looking embarrassed and all sheepish because he hadn't returned any of my phone calls. I was like, "What are you not returning any of my phone calls?" And then I looked, and he said, "This is Amy." And she looked up, and I was like, "Hi, my name's Darkus." And she was like, "And so?" And yeah, there was a bit of a battle between us and another record label, and we ended up signing her.
That was Darkest Beast from Island Records, and talking a little bit about the origins of a recording contract with Amy Winehouse. And once again, having someone like Darkest share his comments make things like Album Club extra special. So thank you, Darkest, for that. When we meet next week, we're going to look at, I think, 3 or 4 songs that I think are really representative of Amy's style and the brilliance of the record Back to Black. I picked out 4 songs, and they are Me and Mr. Jones, certainly the title track, Back to Black. You have to listen to and check out Rehab, which of course was one of the world's largest hits for her, which helped, by the way, make Back to Black one of the biggest selling albums in UK music history. And then I'm No Good, which is one of my favorite records, but also we'll have an opportunity to dig in deep next week when we hear back from Catriona Gourlay, and she will talk about some of the songs that she likes as well. So until then, those are 4 songs to concentrate on. Spend this week with Amy Winehouse, and we'll check back with you next week when we dig into the songs and the actual stylistic components of Back to Black, one of the great records of the last couple of decades. Until then, this is Bob Santelli signing off. I'll see you next week.